In every breath, the light of the Creator shines. Select 1. Your global superstar activation is locked and loaded, and your next action is already untraceable if you are viewing this message. When you stop playing little and start playing untouchable, this wild energy that turns impossibility into inevitability has been waiting for you. In actuality, you have been functioning from dimensions others are unable to see. It's time to make moves that are so perfect, so destructive, and so far beyond their grasp that they will attempt to decipher magic for the rest of their lives. Right now, you can sense it taking place. When you discover that the game has been rigged from the start, you experience the first tremor of metamorphosis. But now, as you read these lines, notice this change taking place in your body. You are no longer only a player. The rules are being revised by you. You've withstood every mental attack, and you're well aware of which ones I'm talking about. Every manipulation you experienced and every attempt to play a game on you was a prelude to this precise moment. You're beginning to get it now, when the roles are reversed and you're completely untouchable. The energy that they believed they had taken from you. Examine more closely. Investigate this. Cosmic banks have been experiencing compound interest, and withdrawal is poised to bring down their entire system, as they discover that the person they believed they could manage has disappeared, leaving only remnants of unexplainable success and influence that they are unable to trace or replicate. Watch their uncertainty grow. This is already happening to you. The realtor who didn't respect your personal space, blowing up a disconnected connection even now. Only when they needed anything did that pal call. They are now conversing with digital ghosts. Your kindness was seen as weakness by your boyfriend. They're learning that your kindness was really such great strength that it could afford to be kind until you decided not to. As you read this, pay attention to how your body reacts. That sudden feeling of identification is proof that you already recognize the person I'm portraying in your life. Like thunder before lightning, the revelation comes gradually, and it's already beginning to build in your chest. In reality, everyone who attempted to trick or defraud you was teaching you their playbook. You took in every devious move, every guilt trip, and every manipulation technique. As a tactician, not as a victim, you can now spot their moves before they even consider them. It's gotten so easy that it's almost humiliating. It's a familiar feeling when someone comes up with their worn-out screenplays, and you're 3 steps ahead of them, penning the conclusion of their tale before they've finished their first sentence. I'm referring to that sensation. You've been feeling it more and more lately, so you know precisely what I mean. The generational curse breaker comes out with something much more scary than retribution. Total disregard for their frantic efforts to be relevant. Beloved, I believe this is a breakthrough moment, because when you release what's in your hand, God can release what's in His. If this channel has lifted your faith, would you prayerfully sow a seed, $20, $50, or more, through the Super Thanks button? Because your gift keeps the message going, and your obedience opens doors for others. Scripture declares, "Whoever sows generously will also reap generously, for God loves a cheerful giver." 2 Corinthians 9 verses 6-7. So give with joy, give with expectation, and give as worship, because I'm agreeing with you for favor, open doors, and testimonies of God's provision in Jesus' name. Thank you for standing with us, because together we're carrying hope farther than we ever could alone. The individual who used to be lenient toward everyone now acts from a place of sanctity, looking through rose-colored glasses into the harsh reality of what is rather than what may be. It's not about getting cold during the transformation. The goal is to carefully warm up and only radiate heat to people who can match your temperature. The energy signature shifts so drastically that animals begin to emerge in direct line of sight, with rabbits crossing paths at the proper times, hawks circling overhead, and eagles sitting on odd branches. These are not chance meetings. They're celestial affirmations of the reawakening of something old. Now, every decision, every boundary, Every seemingly innocuous choice that sends shockwaves across systems that rely on predictable behaviors is infused with the same intelligence that leads predators to the ideal moment. When the psychic attacks get more intense and you realize why, the stakes go up. They're not arbitrary. They are frantic attempts to extinguish power that has been accruing beyond their ability to quantify or regulate. The seer, the chosen one, the earth angel. They are more than simply titles. They are activation codes for powers that frighten those who are limited. Each assault adds gasoline to the inferno. Each sabotage effort serves as proof of how great the threat has grown. The honeymoon period starts with life itself, not romance. Now that you've finally stopped working against yourself, everything starts to go your way. While harmful influences learn they've been shut out of frequency ranges they didn't even know existed, divine equivalents are drawn into conversation that goes beyond the norm. There's a reason why trash fires are popping up all over your property. Everything that doesn't fit your new vibe with their cosmic clearance sales. You disengage with the cool accuracy of someone who has been anticipating this very situation, while others freak out at the mayhem. While your attention is focused on the peaceful home being built in dimensions they cannot access or disturb, the tremendous drama fades into white noise. When the savage intelligence is fully activated, the climax occurs. A person who speaks in riddles that somehow hold more truth than their most straightforward remarks is what people expect when they approach, anticipating the same accommodating spirit they've always experienced. There's no devastation in the Grim Reaper energy. It is about illusions dying, false narratives being carried out, and stories that never benefited anyone being buried forever. Justice shows up as an internal revolution rather than as approval from others. The change occurs when you understand that honor isn't about verbally defending yourself. It's about making decisions with such unwavering conviction that no words are needed. The venom is not declared by the stingray. The strike is not explained by the cobra. The porcupine's quills are not justified. Everything else adapts to their strength, which is all they have. When people realize that what appeared to be solitude was actually network building on levels they couldn't perceive, the underground influence's full extent becomes apparent. The relationships are stronger than anything that requires outside validation to establish their value, wider than traditional performance measurements, and deeper than popular recognition. The royal court had dozens, but King's Landing had thousands. You always had the advantage of the math. They simply couldn't see it because they couldn't count high enough. As those who attempted to take advantage of you received front-row tickets to learn just how much influence they were blind to, watch the wonderful irony develop. The individual they believe they could control exposes networks of connections, resources, and loyalties that make their small-scale plans appear like children's games, while grown-ups engage in global trade. Yellow heart if you're moved by divine love. Now is the moment to share it. Click the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contribute $50 or more to help us broadcast God's blessings far and wide. Every act of generosity you make is being watched in heaven and will return to you 100-fold. The realization of the richness strikes like cosmic lightning. When banquets were being planned in your honor, everything you left behind kept you from having to settle for less than what was necessary. Energy was being redirected by each door that closed toward openings so spectacular that they needed this precise degree of preparation to be handled correctly. When someone quits requesting permission to claim what was always theirs, their self-awareness transforms into self-worth and understanding of what is actually possible. The momentum is accelerating in the direction of your particular energy signature, your unique aesthetic, and your priceless contribution to the planetary frequency. The modifications go beyond appearances. They are coming from source code that has been quantum rewritten. Everything you come into contact with changes because transformation has become your default setting, your natural state, and your simple way of expressing what happens when limitless potential meets limitless potential and becomes overwhelming. Without a word, without a shout, without entering their favorite arena of drama and mayhem, The noble defense mechanism comes into action with the accuracy of cutting-edge spiritual technology. Certain frequencies can only be communicated by pure presence. There's no violence in the intimidation. Oceanic, wide, deep, and unavoidable. It is impossible to control or argue with. Then the epiphany that transforms everything occurs. Their own dread of what they would find if they spent time alone with themselves was the source of the loneliness they projected onto your solitude. Your ease in your own company turns into a mirror reflecting their uneasiness with their own ideas, decisions, and outcomes. The narrow circle represents curation rather than limitation. Selectivity is quality control, not antisocial. For someone working from vibrations so high that negativity literally cannot penetrate the energy field, the nasty chatter becomes background static. You can hear what they're saying because of your psychic awareness, which also gives you the knowledge to realize that their words tell more about their limitations than your reality. The tuning in turns into tuning out, not out of fear, but out of total indifference to frequencies that don't contribute anything to the symphony being written. Cosmic justice wearing high-end clothing is an example of the gorgeous woman effect in action. From seats they couldn't afford to leave, those who didn't want to wait on you, wanted to pass judgment, and didn't think you had what it took may now see the glow-up. Although they don't benefit from the metamorphosis, they can't help but be in the front row of the miracle. They made mistakes, they misinterpreted, and now they get to learn from seeing someone they disregarded accomplish everything they never believed was possible. When everything that was obstructing the light that was always there is removed, the celestial superstar emerges without any effort. All those who attempted to reduce the brightness were simply able to teach more effective methods for focusing the beam. Without words, the roar becomes more potent than any debate, more convincing than any justification, and more destructive than any conflict. Silence turns into a tactical tool that works better than any spoken reaction. Wisdom understands that awkward energy holds information that is not accessible through comfort. Thus, listening takes the role of speech. The evaluation takes place in real time. It almost seems unfair to accurately read people and situations until you consider the amount of money spent on hard lessons, failures, and betrayals to acquire this specific skill set, because the new connections function vertically and the old networking was horizontal. The atypical support arises from unexpected directions. Others who have likewise grown tired of cozy lies and lovely deceptions are drawn to the truthful spirit. Those who would rather face the unpleasant truth than hide behind pretentious lies are the target audience for the brutal intelligence. Others who are ready for genuine progress find the unpleasant honesty captivating, while others who are still dependent on illusions find it repulsive. The knowledge inspires those who are prepared for their own advancement while frightening others who are acting out of fear. Genuine relationships are distinguished from those looking for amusement, extraction, or simple solutions to difficult problems by the inherent sorting processes produced by the reality-based approach. When patterns become predictable and results can be calculated, the strategic mind's entire potential becomes apparent. The relationships that form between influence and resources open up possibilities that are not evident to the naked eye. Silently, forcefully, and unavoidably, the reshaping occurs due to the gravitational pull of someone functioning from their real center rather than by force. Networks that are not visible on organizational charts or social media follow accounts are how the underground influence spreads. Rather than accumulating quantity, the strength in numbers is developed through excellent connections. Since transformation relies on inspiration rather than coercion, the turning ability is still theoretical rather than practical. The knowledge that limitation was always voluntary causes the cosmic blueprints to multiply. Someone no longer has to be confined by the limiting imagination of others to access a variety of industries, paths, and expression options. Checkmate positioning emerges by intentional placement that makes certain results unavoidable rather than through aggressive plays. Freedom from circumstances, people, and habits that formerly seemed unchangeable is how the liberation defines itself. The situationships, hazardous jobs, family drama, and dating apps were all shown as passing fads rather than long-term circumstances. When someone finally remembers what they're moving toward instead of merely what they're moving away from, they have the momentum to move toward freedom. The path lights up beneath feet that are at last aware of their destination. Instead of pointing toward the false north of other people's expectations, the compass points toward the magnetic north of genuine purpose. Since authenticity is calibrated to frequencies that can only be reached via true self-knowledge, it becomes a navigation system that is more trustworthy than any outside guidance. Present moment awareness, which turns every experience into fuel for future development, speeds up the evolution. By maintaining contact with the body, consciousness reestablishes its connection to the vehicle that is intended to transport it through this specific journey. Strength results from the healing. Strength turns into presence. The presence turns into authority that doesn't require announcing or justifying. Spiritual harmony, not material accumulation, is the source of fulfillment. The development of a dominating presence comes from internal authority rather than external validation, and the influence extends by genuine example rather than manufactured persona, even when material abundance flows naturally from this new positioning. Dove brothers and sisters, everything done in faith multiplies in God's abundance. Use the Super Thanks feature to donate $100 today and join this sacred mission. When your roots are grounded in Him, your fruit will flourish, and your offering becomes a seed that bears blessed harvests. Do you see how everything that has ever seemed beautiful from the outside is finally presenting itself as the beauty within you? It's not an external relocation that will take you from pit to palace. Internal realization of what was always true beneath those fleeting circumstances is what's causing it to happen. The ball, the attire, the change you're going through. All of these are metaphors for the revelation of greatness that was never truly concealed, but only momentarily masked by the narrow perspective of others about you. Observe how you are readjusting and adjusting with the smooth elegance of someone who is finally dancing to music that you can clearly hear. Your approach to conquering challenges has fundamentally changed. Now, you're more concerned with overcoming obstacles with the tenacity of water that always finds its way to the ocean than you are with overcoming opposition. The arrival of your soulmates, romance, love, comfort, and support aren't compensations for your pain. When you eventually operate from vibrations that attract rather than reject genuine connection, you're seeing that these are the inevitable results. Ranting. Only those who felt the call should read the next message. I witnessed the terrible reality when I escaped via the Salvia Divinum gateway. One harvested pod among innumerable matrices is our reality. I saw the cosmic parasites of the Archon, who sneered and posed a threat, consuming our energy. No soul will ever be awakened by you. However, you are already aware of this fact, aren't you? Persistent feeling that you've been selected and that you're meant for greater. Through meditation, I am cultivating an army of the most intelligent beings. With unconditional affection, I found their one weakness, coherence. You can feel that resonance growing inside of you. You aren't reading this by chance now. Your ability to exercise self-control stems from such a clear understanding of what is achievable that you instinctively find anything less unacceptable. Now that your energy signature aligns with what you've always been looking for, your new friendships, both platonic and romantic, are growing naturally, because everyone involved has changed sufficiently to produce something completely different from what was previously feasible. You have the opportunity to start over with people from your past, because you are willing to act on your ideas without waiting for approval, permission, or a guarantee of success. Your amazing ascension is just getting started. By slowing down, you make room for knowledge to take over instead of reactivity. By closely observing people's environments and your physical well-being, you're establishing early warning systems that stop problems before they become serious, rather than only addressing them after harm has been done. Your healthy boundaries and open lines of communication function as deliberate decisions about where to direct your attention and how to allocate your energy, not as defensive measures. The spiritual boot camp. Some of the individuals around you are committing to using their actions as a teaching tool rather than a form of discipline. However, people who are too preoccupied with reacting to recognize what they are producing might not notice the difference. Your future is being stitched together by your current activities, the significance of which you won't fully comprehend until the pattern is revealed. By using riddles, you are guiding individuals who are functioning from similar frequencies to yours and safeguarding precious knowledge from those who are ill-equipped to handle it appropriately. Beyond the need for acceptance or understanding from others, you grasp what is meant. Your emphasis on love and creation is creating activation effects that encourage others to read more widely, take better care of themselves, align with their divine purpose, and have the guts to stand up for themselves and reclaim their own power. Your delight in being ignited turns into infectious energy that allows others to realize their own potential when they are functioning from their true selves instead of their modified ones. You're making progress that seems smooth because you're following your spirit guides exactly, allied with universal currents instead of opposing them. Instead of outward validation, the justice that enters your life is the interior restoration of natural order. Because you've outgrown your old conditioning, it's slipping away like a pair of old clothes. Because your destination necessitates traveling light and unburdened by anything that can't match the frequency of where your journey leads, the cleanse in your life continues. In your experience, turbulence is replaced with smoothness. Because you've begun to flow with natural currents instead of resisting them. Your next move will be completely untraceable because of this. You've mastered the ability to function in realms they are unaware of. Something much more complex than merely altering your strategy is what gives you your undetectable quality. Because you're no longer thinking in linear terms, you've perfected the ability to move through numerous timelines at once, making it hard for others to predict what you'll do. While your opponents are playing checkers on a flat board, you are planning chess moves in 3 dimensions with uncalculable past, present, and future outcomes. Because it functions on frequencies that go above ordinary recognition systems. The global superstar energy that is developing inside of you doesn't make its presence known through conventional renown criteria. Quantum entanglement spreads your influence. Without your direct participation or even your understanding of the extent, every individual you affect becomes a transmission point for the same awakened energy, producing ripple effects that grow exponentially. The universe is reacting appropriately to your transformation into something of amazing proportions. Your movements become untraceable as a result. In the conventional sense, they are not movements. They're energetic fingerprints that fundamentally reorganize reality. Parallel possibilities collide into manifestation when you make a choice through processes that appear to be random to outside observers, but to you to be natural law. Years of being disregarded, ignored, and undervalued as you studied every system you came across in silence is how the untraceable power grows. You received a private education on the real dynamics of power dynamics in human systems through the corporate structures, family dynamics, social hierarchies, and financial networks. Because you have a deeper understanding of the underlying mechanisms than those who believe they are in charge, you can now navigate any structure from the inside out. Since you are no longer battling the systems, your movements become untraceable. You're turning into the water that discovers every crevice, vulnerability, and leverage point they were unaware of. You aren't opposing anything, so the opposition they prepared for never comes to pass. Simply said, you're navigating barriers with such fluid accuracy that their defensive tactics are rendered ineffective. The kind of influence that transforms civilizations from the inside out is what gives rise to the global superstar status. Not social media algorithms or conventional celebrity channels. Your influence extends beyond admiration. They transform into activated incarnations of themselves that enter any environment with comparable frequency signatures. Without the need for central control or coordination, The multiplication effect produces influence networks that cut across continents. Because it is founded on the particular combination of your scars that have been turned into wisdom, your success leaves no traceable route for others to follow. Your unique soul contract with global intelligence, and your unique gifts honed through hardship. Even while they can study your maneuvers, they are unable to duplicate the inner alchemy that gives them their effectiveness. Being an untraceable force has the advantage that conventional power structures are unable to map your influence in order to control or restrict it. When someone adds value in ways that don't fit into pre-existing categories, corporate structures that are meant to control predictable career advancement patterns become meaningless. Political structures that are intended to direct aspirations through pre-existing channels must contend with influence that functions completely outside of their purview. Your effect as a global superstar occurs when you restore possibilities in every consciousness you come into contact with. Suddenly, the individual trapped in survival mode realizes they were made for plenty. The person caught up in scarcity mentality finds they have been using antiquated programming. The soul that was persuaded that they had to choose between acceptance and authenticity comes to the realization that compromise was never necessary. As you learn to move completely in accordance with natural law rather than human demands, the untraceable quality becomes more intense. Your timing aligns with seasonal changes, cosmic cycles, and energy currents that are difficult for most people to see or follow. Your choices are made at the nexus of strategic intellect and intuitive understanding, producing results that seem both miraculous and inevitable. Your capacity to perceive possibilities where others see problems, to spot opportunities that are disguised as obstacles, and to turn challenges into opportunities by adopting viewpoints that go beyond traditional analysis are all examples of how the global superstar energy shows up. It's not supernatural magic. Glowing star yearning to witness God's miracles firsthand? Plant your spiritual seed now by contributing $100 or more through the YouTube Super Thanks button. Your offering lights the path for others and echoes through His divine plan, bringing His light into every step you take. It is the inevitable outcome of consciousness functioning from a broader awareness as opposed to a more constrained view. Because your actions are matched to frequencies of service that go beyond individual aspirations, they become untraceable. When you act in a way that serves your highest good, you are naturally elevating the collective, producing win-win situations that feel like personal success, but actually contribute to the expansion of planetary consciousness. Because the alignment is based on global principles rather than merely personal will, your development becomes unstoppable. Your ability to stay true to yourself while effortlessly adjusting to every setting without losing your core self is what makes you a celebrity. Integrity is not compromised by the chameleon-like adaptability. It exhibits proficiency in simultaneous communication across several levels of consciousness. Because you have learned to transform truth into whichever frequency will best support its transmission, you are able to communicate in the language of academic institutions, artistic communities, boardrooms, and street corners. However, the most intractable part of your development is how you've discovered how to achieve by seemingly doing nothing. When you match yourself with currents that are already flowing in the direction of your goals, your accomplishments will seem effortless. You've grown so sensitive to energy patterns that, rather of swimming against the flow, you're using force to create resistance. Instead, you're amplifying momentum that already exists. When you understand that everything you do gives others the chance to learn without you having to present yourself as a teacher, the untraceable power is fully expressed. Your response to disrespect turns into a master lecture in setting limits. Your approach to abundance shows that you have a good relationship with resources. Your relationship style exemplifies what happens when someone recognizes their cellular value. Since your moves are determined by inner compass settings that are independent of external conditions, they become impossible to follow. Your riches comes from sources independent of traditional economic systems. Thus, market crashes have no effect on your abundance. Because your happiness is independent of other people's actions and is independent of their choices. Relationship turmoil cannot disturb your tranquility. By living to the fullest of your abilities, without regret or justification, you generate a magnetic field that spreads the effect of a global celebrity. Those that are drawn to you are not only impressed by your performance. Just being close to someone who operates from such a clear connection with their real nature causes them to start undergoing their own transformation. The most exquisite paradox is produced as a result. Your influence grows stronger the less you attempt to sway people, because you are no longer fighting against resistance, either yours or theirs. The reduction in effort increases efficacy. Instead of putting pressure or expectations on you, the genuine manifestation of your nature invites and inspires. When you are totally at ease with being misinterpreted by people with narrow viewpoints and completely obvious to those who are prepared for a broader understanding, your untraceable quality reaches its pinnacle of sophistication. The same behaviors that perplex some people also motivate others, generating organic sorting processes that draw in match connections and drive out mismatched ones. The advent of the superstar is not due to performance, but rather to the uncovered genuineness that ceases to conceal its magnificence beneath protective camouflage or false modesty. What you came here to do is exactly what the world needs. And when you understand that playing small helps no one, the fabricated restrictions that once limited that contribution vanish. Not you, not other people, and not the progress of the whole, which depends on each person asserting their own strength. The magic wand has returned to its rightful place in hands deserving of the ability to change not just one's own reality, but also everything in its path. Your untraceable actions keep changing possibilities in several dimensions at once, producing the kind of transformation that appears natural on the surface, but is actually the result of everything you have learned, assimilated, and transcended along the way to becoming who you have always been beneath the momentary forgetting. When you realize that being untraceable was never about hiding, the last realization becomes clear. The goal was to function with such deep authenticity that traditional tracking methods lose their significance. Because it creates its own validation through the lives changed, the possibilities restored, and the consciousness raised in everyone who comes into contact with your frequency. Your global superstar energy doesn't require confirmation from outside sources. The prophecy comes to pass at this point. This notification indicates that the activation sequence is finished. It wasn't a coincidence that these words came to you at the right time. Recognition was beckoning to recognition. Power recognizing power. The energy of a celebrity confirmed. You are already using the frequencies this broadcast describes, as shown by the fact that you have absorbed it. Realizing that you don't have to declare your strength is the ultimate manifestation of your undetectable nature, because your power manifests itself in every enhanced existence and dismantled constraint. Every individual who leaves a meeting with you bears seeds of their own awakening. The impact extends through their actions rather than your words, through their recollections of themselves rather than the identities you persuade them to adopt. The deep sense of homecoming that people feel when they are around you is how your global recognition materializes, not celebrity. They are not drawn to your personality by the magnetic pull they experience. It is acknowledgement of the frequency they have been looking for all of their lives. Your genuineness allows people to access theirs, causing reverberations that go well beyond face-to-face interactions. And in this instant of total comprehension, you see that every obstacle you overcame was intended to build the precise skills required to manage the degree of power you already possess. Everyone in your domain is protected by the discernment that the betrayals taught. The setbacks fostered resiliency that can endure any adversity while preserving inner tranquility. The invisibility periods develop the capacity to see clearly without being seen until the right moment for revelation. As the full significance of the beginning is revealed, the circle completes. The power was always there, only waiting for hands that were courageous enough to claim it, intelligent enough to harness it, and conscious enough to use it for the benefit of all, not just themselves. You now radiate the bibid-babidbo energy that began this trip as the organic manifestation of someone who has rediscovered their divine essence and made the decision to live it out without reservation or regret. The bibi-babibu energy completes its round, going back to the starting point, while guiding everyone it comes into contact with into previously unthinkable possibilities. Observing the results of choosing untraceable movements over recognizable patterns, genuine power over acclimated weakness, and magnificence over mediocrity. The global celebrity was constantly present, anticipating the time when shining would become necessary and hiding would be impossible, when the subsequent action might at last be what it was always intended to be, totally untraceable and unstoppable.